I've really been thinking about Sasquatch for a long time now. I know a lot of people don't keep up with this sort of thing. The big Sasquatch craze was really in the 70s and 80s, and at this point, knowing anything about how nature works, most people assume, well, yeah, we've never found a corpse, we've never found the bones. There'd be a lot of them if there were a sustainable population for this long of a great ape in the Pacific Northwest. But the problem is the Sasquatch exists, but it's a multi-dimensional being. It's not a race. It's one guy, the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, the Yeti, the Skunk Ape. It's all one guy. Two. Most people, including myself, do consider the Skunk Ape as probably his brother or his uncle or something like that. But the point is, that's why there's no evidence. And to have people insult me or my older brother, he's a legitimate hunter. He's not just going out there to drink. That's what my mom always says, is he's just going out into the woods to play the duck noise. It's like a duck call, like one of those things where you blow into it, goes brr, but it sounds like a duck. And it's not that. It's supposed to sound like a Sasquatch. And she says that he just goes out there so he can blow that a few times, and he can drink like a 24 pack of beer with him and his friend. And she says that's why he doesn't want to get married, because he spends too much time with his friend out there. But the point is, he legitimately is hunting the Sasquatch. He's seen the Sasquatch. One time I was backpacking with him, and we stopped in a tent in the Devil's Pit. It's a landmark in the local whatchamacallit, the things that Teddy Roosevelt set up. National Park, the local national park. That's the one. And we were in the tent, and we were sharing the sleeping bag because we only had one back then. Our dad, he didn't really invest much in that sort of thing. He never went out with us, and we woke up and there was something throwing fucking these little rocks, these tiny little pebbles. They were picking up the pebbles and throwing them at the tent, and then there would be like the noise every once in a while. And we thought, hey, is that just some hiker? Is that some fucking punk messing with us? And no, it wasn't. It was the Sasquatch throwing rocks at the tent and spooking us out. And it's just, a lot of people are really down. They've been really down on the Sasquatch in the last decade or so. And he's a prankster. He's a funny guy, but he's a good guy. The Bigfoot, he's never killed anyone. He's never mauled anyone. He's not a dog man. Don't get me fucking started on the dog man. But that's all I wanted to get across, really, on this point, is that the Sasquatch does exist, but they're not a race of great apes. They're not some Australopithecus fucking guy living, group of guys living in the cave systems or something. Otherwise, they'd be all over Victoria Island, and as far as I know, I've never heard any stories about the Sasquatch on Victoria Island. And that's, it's one guy, and he's an interdimensional being. And he's been coming to our world all over the place. That's why he's called the Sasquatch, because that's an Indian word. That's not what I call him Bigfoot, but the scientific term is a Sasquatch. So I want to, get that across. I don't want someone thinking I'm talking about Bigfoot, the monster truck, because I live in Minnesota, and the Bigfoot, I think Bigfoot is from Minnesota. Let me go on Wikipedia, type that into Google. Okay, then I click on Wikipedia here. Wait for that to load. Bigfoot. Have you ever noticed how there's way more articles on Wikipedia in English than all the other ones? So not this Bigfoot, I mean the disambiguation of Bigfoot. Okay, Bigfoot, Texas. No, it's not any of these towns. Where is it? Bigfoot, the truck, the monster truck. Yeah, the famous monster truck. He's He's not from Minnesota. He's from Montana. I'm sorry. I was mistaken. I apologize, but that does not have any bearing on my discussion of the actual Bigfoot, the Sasquatch. So just keep that in mind. It's not a race. It's the one interdimensional being who travels through invisible portals to and from our world. And that does include, he is he's the Sasquatch. He's the Bigfoot. He is the abominable snowman, the Yeti. He goes up there sometimes. And the Tibetan monks, they have that what they think it's his scalp, but it's not his scalp. It's if it's anything, it's one of his relatives. I've seen him. He's alive. He does have a scalp. So they're either lying or it's one of his dead relatives. And either way, that's really disrespectful. I really think they should offer it back to him, or if it is a hoax, they should really come forward, because it's really disrespectful. But he's not the Skunk Ape. I believe that's his uncle or maybe his brother, but he's very different. It's funny, a lot more people believe in the Skunk Ape these days. The Skunk Ape from Florida in the Everglades, they believe in him a lot more than they do the Sasquatch, and that's just silly. And he does show up in Africa, but in Africa they have the mountain gorillas, the gorillas, so people are just like, oh, this is just a gorilla, but it's not. But then you don't hear the reports because they just assume it's one of the other big apes, but it's not. So anyway, yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about today was the Dogmen. Now, the Dogmen, they are also interdimensional beings, but there's more than one of them. There's a lot of them, the Dogmen, and they, unlike the Sasquatch, they are very violent. There's like the Beast of Bray Road from Wisconsin. I've seen him. He's a nasty guy. He'll take a 12-gauge shotgun buckshot right to the chest, and he'll tear through the door of your car, and he'll rip you out and then put you down on down on your knees, and he'll have his way with you. If I have anything to say about it, not that I don't mean that happened to me, but I've heard things. So, but there's all kinds of Dogmen, and a lot of the time when people report these big, spooky, tall beings covered in fur walking around, they're not talking about bears. They don't, they might think it's Sasquatch, but it's not. It's the Dogmen, and you'll hear the howling in the woods, and you'll be like, whoa, that doesn't sound quite like a coyote. That doesn't sound quite like a coyote. That doesn't sound quite like a gray wolf. And it's not, because it's not a timber wolf. It's the Dogman, and it's not the Sasquatch. So if you ever need to deal with the Dogmen, you can kill them. You'd need a very high caliber gun. A 308, that's probably not going to cover it. 30-06, probably not going to cover it. Like I said, the shotgun, I have insider knowledge that you'd need something bigger than the buckshot. Maybe one of the weird shotgun loads could do it. A deer slug, maybe, if you get a few in the right spots. But I would think you would need something 50 BMG or higher, maybe a 12.7 millimeter. Is 12.7? Is that 50 caliber? I'd have to Google that, and I don't really want to hold back the video. But 14 millimeter, is that the right? If you were paying me to go hunt down a Dogman, you could get me. I've been thinking about setting up an Indiegogo or a Patreon account for this too. The Dogman, the Dogmen. I say the Dogman. I'm thinking about the Beast of Bray Road specifically, but the entire race of Dogmen who kill. They maim and kill a lot of livestock and a lot of people, and they're just very nasty people. They're not mindless. They're sentient beings, just like us and just like the Sasquatch, but they're really cruel and cruel and unusual punishment, and that is against the rules in the United States. That's in the Constitution. No one can do the cruel and unusual punishment, not even the Dogmen. Our founding fathers, they they had that in mind. They knew that there were things in the United States of America that they couldn't explain. The Indians couldn't explain them. A lot of, in Roanoke, when all those people disappeared on the Roanoke colony, they wrote Croatoan on that post, and that's probably the name of the Dogman. It could have been a big pack of Dogmen came in and took them all. It's just, you have to consider these things, and I'm pretty sure George Washington was a great man, and so was John Hancock, the guy who invented lightning. Not invented, I'm sorry, he discovered lightning. Benjamin Franklin, he was a great man. They were all great guys. They had this stuff in mind when they wrote the Constitution. So for the Dogmen to do this, it's just it boggles the mind that someone would be so unconstitutional. So I've been thinking about hunting them, and but I would need some sort of 20 millimeter rifle, like a full-on anti-tank rifle. I know they're not anti-tank rifles. You can't you can't destroy a tank with a 20 millimeter. I mean, modern tanks, you could probably not even take out the tread. But in World War II, even then, like after the, you can maybe take down a Panzer I, but you get up to Panzer III, Panzer IV, your rifle's not going to do anything. But like the Finnish and the Japanese, I know, both used 20 millimeter rifles, and if I think one or two bullets from that, if you hit them in the chest, you hit them in the head, you could take down the Dogman. And I really think it would be really good for society to start getting rid of some of these Dogmen. They can take the shapes of people. They can, all kinds of crimes, white collar, blue collar crimes, whatever you think of. And they have these deals set up with the lizard men, and they're just getting off. They don't go to jail. You don't see any Dogmen in jail, and not even disguised Dogmen. Like Little Red Riding Hood. She, her grandma died. What? They didn't arrest him. The vigilante justice, the guy with the axe, had to fucking take him out, and he's in jail. How does that make any sense? He was just dealing with the fucking Dogman. The woodsman was just dealing with the Dogman. He's in jail. Well, he was in jail, but that was a long time ago. But even back then, the Dogmen were just, no one believes them. None of the times they get put to trial, they don't, there's no accountability there. So you have to take the justice into your own hands when you're dealing with these types of interdimensional beings who think they can do whatever they want because they come from a different dimension. It's just not how it works. Not in my America. So yeah, if I do start up one of those crowdfunding to deal with this, I will link it in the description later. Maybe I'll put in an annotation. But thank you for listening. I just really wanted to get these two things off my chest, that Sasquatch is not what you think. He is just, and he's a very nice, enlightened guy. I keep saying guy. He's not really. It's a long story. I don't mean that he is very enlightened. His brother, the Skunk Ape, is an okay guy. I don't think the Skunk Ape, I don't think he's quite as personable. He doesn't get along. I don't think he'll get along with most people as much. He's a bit coarse, rough around the edges. But any hermit who's hiding you get a human, you put him in the Everglades hiding out there for 20 years. Well, he's going to be he's going to be an old codger, That's all I'm saying. That's all the Skunk Ape is. But the Sasquatch, he's very smart. He's very nice, personable, very considerate. He plays some tricks on you. He might throw rocks at your tent. He might steal your pack of hot dogs. He might, piss all over your boots when you leave them outside the tent. But he's just playing around. They don't have TV. They don't have internet. So, they have to do something. And at least he's not ripping people's skins off or making them blow their big wolf dicks like the fucking Dogmen. So, but it's not a race of monkey men. They're not a race. That's why there's no bones. That's why there's no remains. You just have to consider that. And the second thing, again, the Dogmen, we have to start dealing with them. And, the types of weapons people have in the U.S. They're just not equipped. Even worse in Canada. Unless I can get my hands on something automatic, a 308 bullet, that's not going to deal with it. Even semi-automatic, they're very fast. You could get up on you and knock it out of your hands before you can do anything. I would need something of a smaller caliber that can fire in this fully automatic mode, or I would need a much larger round, something that would be, according to these fucking gun grabber laws, that would be a destructive device. But I don't want to go shoot up any shops. I don't want to go rob a liquor store. I want to deal with these real not demons, but interdimensional troublemakers, the dogmen that are just, they're going buck wild out there. They're just going buck wild, and it's not good for the people that it affects. It's not good for America. It's not even good for, they go up into Canada. Anyone can go into Canada. There's no accountability there. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, they're not equipped to deal with the dogmen any more than we are down here. No one's going to be able to take down a dogman with a bolt action rifle. No one's going to be able to do it with a plinking little semi-automatic gun. So get the word out there. Either support me in my efforts when I get that going, or just send letters to your congressman, your senator, your government. It's hard to trust the government these days, but there are still at least a handful of politicians that take their constituents to heart. So if you send in your letters demanding that the gun laws be lowered, even if it's just for professional hunters of dogmen and other terrible beings that just, the hide behind the Jersey Devil, that sort of thing, there's a reason there's still a problem. It's not because no one's trying. It's just no one can do it with a 223 round, AR-15. That's only firing as fast as you can pull the trigger. You can't hold it down and go full auto buck wild on them. So write to Congress and request that gun control be lowered to deal with this sort of thing. Or else, what if the dogmen, what if they get rid of the Sasquatch? He's the only peaceful interdimensional being I can think of, and if we don't foster relations with him, if he dies, the skunk ape, he's not going to take us seriously when we advance to the point where we're going to be able to start interacting on an interdimensional level ourselves. We need a good someone to vouch for us, and I think the Sasquatch is that. But if we don't deal with these dogmen, there's not going to be anything but people who are very hostile to us. And, on a global stage, it's, if you have a new country and no one's willing to vouch for them, they don't become a real country. They don't get recognized by the UN. And I believe there is a United Nations of interdimensional organizations that if we don't have someone to vouch for us, they're not going to take us seriously. We're not going to be official. We're going to be an unrecognized state. And that's all I want to avoid. So thank you. I'll end the video here, but thank you for listening. Have a nice one, everyone. And remember, if you see the Sasquatch, don't be afraid. Just say that you're there in peace. So have a nice one. Goodbye, everybody.